Monte Lifeline Hospital, Chennai. This is a history of a 59 years old lady who was diagnosed with juvenile MS in her teens, and she underwent a CME in 1980, and 8 years later she underwent MVR with a Starr Edwards ball and cage valve for mitral restenosis, and she was fairly asymptomatic for about 3 decades. In 2014, almost 27 years after, she came to us with congestive cardiac failure with a severe TR and moderate RV dysfunction. So the case was discussed at a multidisciplinary heart team meeting, and she underwent a tricuspid valve replacement with a 29 mm side-chute BioCar bioprosthetic valve. And the discharge echo showed well-functioning bioprosthetic valve with a mild paravalvular leak, and she was advised periodic follow-up. And after about 10 months, she returned to us with a severe congestive cardiac failure with a severe RV dysfunction, with the features of pedal edema, ascites, and grossly pulsated liver. ECG was showing atrial fibrillation. She was already on anticoagulation since she was on mechanical prosthetic valve in mitral position. This her echo showed a grossly dilated RA and RV, and the tricuspid prosthetic valve was functioning well, and there was a large vent in the paravalvular area and a severe paravalvular leak. There was mild pericardial effusion, otherwise the mitral process was functioning well. And there was a large defect of about 2.4 into 1.2 centimeter in the anteromedial aspect of the tricuspid annulus. And we investigated her to rule out active infective endocarditis, and her renal function were normal. So the case was again discussed in the heart team meeting, and to decide regarding a redo surgery versus percutaneous closure. And these are the points we discussed. The patient already had 3 previous open heart surgeries, and she's in her 60s with comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, with the Euroscore of about 6% mortality, surgical mortality, and the risks of stopping anticoagulation for surgery. And though this percutaneous closure appears as an attractive option with a lesser risk, there may be more chance for failure as well. And not to forget about the risk of complete heart block, because the defect is predominantly in the medial aspect. So it was decided to proceed with the percutaneous closure after discussing with the family the pros and cons. And these are the procedural steps under local anesthesia and transthoracic guidance, because we could able to get very good windows with the transthoracic echoes. So the access was through right femoral vein and the left femoral vein. We chose 2 muscular VSD occluders. This is the initial RV angiogram. The 6 French pigtail catheter. Actually, the pigtail catheter it entered not through the tricuspid valve annulus, it entered through the paravalvular defect. And the angiogram showed a grossly dilated RV, the significant paravalvular leak. And so you can see the ball and cage valve, which is functioning well. And these 2 are the epicardial pacemaker wiring, which was done during the previous tricuspid valvular surgery to prevent a transvenous pacemaker in future. And 2 delivery sheets were introduced through the this paravalvular defect. These 2 are the 10 French Amplatzer delivery devices, delivery catheters. 16 mm size Amplatzer VSD muscular occluder was put, and this is a repeat RV angiogram, which was done after putting the first device, 16 mm Amplatzer VSD muscular occluder, and we could be able to see a significant residual paravalvular leak. So it was decided to go on with the second device. So this is the second device was the 18 mm LifeTech VSD muscular occluder, because the size of the defect was almost 12 to 13 millimeter in size. We usually add 2 millimeter to the initial size. These are the final stable position of the devices in LAO view as well as RAO cranial view. And we had a complication after deploying the first device. The patient developed congenital heart block with a rate of about 35, and immediately injection atropine was given and started on isoprene infusion. And later on table, patient underwent a VVI pacemaker, because already the epicardial leads were in place. We could avoid this transvenous pacing leads, and we connected pacemaker generator in the subpectoral pocket. And this is the final angiogram. final echocardiogram, which showed the very perfectly fitted devices with a very trivial paravalvular leak. And the other thing what we thought was whether the tricuspid septal leaflet, whether it get stuck of this bioprosthetic valve, but there was no tricuspid regurgitation as well. The result was good, and patient had much improved symptomatic status on discharge. And the discharge AC showed pacemaker in inhibitory mode, and she's had regular follow-up. The last visit was 10 days back, and she's had no recurrence of symptoms with a very minimal diuretic requirement. So reoperation for the purpose of paravalvular leak, it causes significant morbidity, and there will be associated high perioperative mortality as well. Different devices can be used, like ductal occluders and VSD vascular occluders, and vascular plugs can be used. And so we did a little bit of literature search, and this was one case which was published from Turkey, valve-in-valve transcatheter tricuspid valve with a simultaneous paravalvular leak closure. The other one was from Seoul, Korea. There they had did an ambulatory ductal occlusion of a paravalvular leak of a tricuspid valve replacement. Another one was also from Turkey. These three were the other cases which has been in literature. So the take-home message is a proper assessment of the shape and size of the defect, and pre-procedural imaging modality. It could be a TTE or TE, better could be a 3D echo and MRI, and proper planning of procedure and the type of devices and size of devices, the number of devices which is needed, and imaging modality during the procedure to be decided. Not to forget about potential complications and to manage them accordingly. Thank you.